Okay, so hi Jonathan, thanks for joining us today. So I had the privilege of teaching Jonathan English 101A at San Quentin Prison in 2017. So it's great to see you out and ready to share gifts with the world. So I'm sure this is a crazy time to transition back. So how has it been for you reintegrating? And like, did you get out before the pandemic? And then what sort of resources have you been given to help you reintegrate?
So I was released on May 1st of this year.
Oh,
So
wow.
I missed the pandemic at San Quentin. Though I did still paroled in COVID, I guess, in this new life, a society
Yeah.
that we have now. Yeah, it's quite an adjustment, and it's got its ups and downs. The I had this I guess this dream about me coming the day I was going to come out and my family was going to meet me, but with travel restrictions, they weren't able to come, and we weren't able to go to a restaurant and sit down and have a meal. But my friends actually did come and pick me up that day, and it was great. We kind of had to adjust. They took me to Walmart and bought some stuff for me, and they've been greatly being able to support me. They've been providing me with a lot of stuff and items that I needed. So yeah, it's been great, but it's just yeah, in COVID, it's kind of hard to kind of like share a meal with somebody and sit down at a restaurant. So yeah.
Right. Does that make it hard for like finding work? Are there a lot of resources to help out with that kind of thing?
Yeah, there have been reentry organizations that's been helping me getting me back on my feet. And like I said, my friends have and my support network have been really great about like providing me, taking me to other places and getting me stuff. So yeah, it's
Okay, awesome. So I guess my next question is someone who's like had an insider's view. What do you think it's important for the public to know, and what sort of misconceptions do you feel there are about life in prison?
life in prison is pretty boring.
Okay.
Like
It's
it's
not
not
like the
like
movies.
yeah, not like the movies. There's not violence and all that kind of like like for me, I wake up like at 6 o'clock in the morning. I go to breakfast and I go to work and then I
Yeah.
come back and I exercise and yeah, and then this next day is the same. So it's like Groundhog Day. Yeah, it's like very mundane and very monotonous and very repetitive. So there's a lot of like misconceptions about like prison and like actually who's in prison because like generally when people look at me or even like see me, they always like wonder like you were in prison or like what are you doing in prison? Um, you know,
Right.
because, Unfortunately our society has like this perception of like the way you walk, the way you talk, or the way you look defines you or assumes that you were incarcerated at one point or another, and unfortunately that's a very negative stereotype to have. Anybody goes to and everybody goes to prison. We all make bad choices, and those choices have consequences. So it's not just like I said, not a certain type of person that goes to prison.
Right.
So and are actually pretty much a lot of people inside prison are of the elderly population because
Right.
they've been incarcerated for 20, 25 years. The average person who gets out on parole has done over about 20 years inside incarcerated. So, if a person was, incarcerated at like 20, they're coming out 40, 45. So, it's, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I remember having a lot of older students and a lot who hadn't really gone to college before that. So, um, did you find that it was hard being like I know there's a lot of prison gangs typically, right? Was there the presence of that a lot, or did that make it difficult to like find a niche or anything?
No, I
Not
mean,
really.
not really. Just,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, prison still, unfortunately, still has that notion of like, if you belong to a certain race or a certain group,
Yeah.
you have to follow certain orders. Luckily for me, I really didn't have to like, you know, do too much of that. I
Yeah.
was to do my own path, and I was, given a very long life sentence. Originally I was given 50 to life, and here I'm
Yeah.
back in society is because I made the choices of not following those supposed like prison rules or gangs. and
Right.
I was chosen to be, to do better inside.
Right. Yeah. Do you feel like the prison university project played like a role in that, or how did that impact you?
Yeah, that there at other prisons there are like correspondence college courses that you can take through mail. So you can just
Hmm.
do homework and mail it in, and supposedly a teacher would grade it and return the work back to you. And the prison university project was the first like actual program that I seen where they were actually on site. They were allowed to come in. Actually, you can actually sit in a class and actually be taught in a classroom. You know, that provided higher education courses. Each prison still has its own GED slash high school courses that they provide, but this was the first time I've seen a edu- higher education that was provided at San Quentin, and just to see the amount of volunteers that were willing to come in and dedicate their time was like it gave me hope to like just to show that like people actually wanted to actually come in and help and actually cared about the students and about like helping the students achieve a higher education.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I know the first semester I taught at San Quentin back in I think 2012 or 2013. Um, it was really awful because some of the students have been working like you guys had to handwrite stuff, right? Because they've been handwriting notes all semester long, and I think some of the guards were coming and looking for contraband, and they might have gotten water on it or something, and like their notes got ruined. And then I think some of them were like so frustrated it was hard to start over again. I don't know. Have you heard of things like that happening? That's probably not too common, I'm hoping, right?
It's not too common, but unfortunately, because it is while you're incarcerated, you don't have access to the internet. We don't really have computers or anything inside ourselves. So we have to handwrite everything, and accidents do happen. When they do come in, the correctional officers come inside and search, and sometimes they will like just accidentally throw away stuff or get something damaged. And that'll happen from time to time, but not too often. But yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of handwriting in that program, a lot, a lot.
Right. It's like it's probably weird transitioning back to so much technology. I don't know if you prefer having all the technology or if it's like it's kind of a nice oasis. I know I always liked coming in to teach because it was good to get away from the screen. And of course now we're around it more than ever, so there's no avoiding it.
Yeah, like again, I have Google now, so it helps a lot. Like I don't have to just remember stuff, which
Right.
I don't know if that makes me dumber or smarter that I can use Google. And also, like I guess my phone, my phone is literally attached to me like 24/7.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Only time will
Right.
tell. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know it's crazy. I mean, it's like a different sort of. I know, like the Jodie Lewin, right, who's a director there. She sort of talks about prison as being a metaphor for society, but I feel like in some ways it was a nice escape from me going to that environment because like students are so motivated and they're not like hooked to technology. But it's like I myself am guilty of getting distracted by technology as well, right? It's so easy to multitask and be like, oh, I'm going to go online shopping, like learning at the same time. Okay, no, great. So I guess I don't know. This is a big question, so I'm not sure if you have a perspective on this, but like the point of our discussion, like the bigger picture that we're looking at when we talk about the prison industrial complex is to think about obstacles to reform, criminal justice reform. So, do you have any thoughts on like what are some of the biggest obstacles to criminal justice reform?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about it, and it's really complicated. I mean, there's no like one solution where we can kind of like just focus on and like we can like shift how our society thinks about criminal justice. There's a lot of aspects. Obviously the media plays a really big into it about again portraying and kind of glorifying about what prison
Right.
is and who's inside, and a lot of it again is the public perception, and I understand because my family, like unless your family or somebody actually has been incarcerated, they only go on what the news tells them or what they assume or what their friends tell them. But so unless you're actually like directly impacted by the criminal justice system, you really don't understand it. And And, rightfully so, like, when I put my place into a person that's never experienced it, and and I see on the news that they're releasing hundreds of thousands of people out of prison, my thought would be like, hey, I don't want that person to live in my neighborhood, like, because my kids are, I have my kids, I live in a
Yeah.
decent neighborhood. Why are these people coming into my neighborhood?
Yeah.
So I understand that. So I think a lot of it also has, so it has a lot to do with like the understanding of, the average person, because, since I've been out, I've seen society for what it is. And, it's, one thing to watch on TV about like how, poverty and the homelessness problems and just like the disparity is, but like it's another to actually see it. And, to go to the Lake Merritt, where I'm close
Mm-hmm.
to, and, seeing
Awesome.
that people are going by their day, while like people are sleeping in tents on the other side of the street, can be very jarring. And just like the seeing that, how like we accept that as a society, which again, it's overall, it's a bigger problem, because, by that sense, like if you're ignoring the homelessness problem,
Right.
we're already ignoring, basically, we're ignoring the criminal justice part of the life, because, besides San Quentin, most prisons are built outside of your regular community. They're built, far away, 2 to 3 hours away from any major city, so that, it's out of society's mind. It's out of people's minds that like, okay, I know that like this guy's getting locked up, and, they're like far away, so they're not going to be, near me, so I don't have to think about that every day anymore. So
Right.
it's out of people's minds. And, we expect that like people, get justice. And that's, unfortunately, that's another sad part about like, just because like people, so, like if, you get arrested, you get arraigned, you go to trial, and you get sent off to prison, is that really justice? Like,
Right.
is that justice for the family? Do they get to heal? Do they actually get closure or anything? Because, for me, I went through court, and it's very, it was like, in a court environment, you really don't, you have to listen to the judge. You have to, behave in a certain way, and you have to listen
Mm-hmm.
to everything else. So there's really nothing to where it could be beneficial, for the person who's being convicted, as well as the victim or the victim's family. So again, it's a bigger part. I don't know if I can. I don't want to take up like, two
Yeah,
hours.
no. Yeah, I'm sure it sounds like you have so much you could say on it. I mean, I hear a lot of interesting, like I'm trying to sort of bookmark as you're talking, like interesting points. I mean, so it seems like economic disparity is one of the key things that you feel like is an issue, right? You're talking about like the homeless people on one side of like the like Merit, for instance, and then other people going about their day. So just you see like injustice in society as a whole as being at the root of the problem in part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and and also with the mental health crisis, a lot of
Yeah.
people are homeless, do have mental health issues. and
Yeah.
and again, they might have they make poor choices, because they're not getting treated for the mental health issues. Therefore, they'll be sent off to prison, and then we expect the prison itself to actually treat the person with that issue, rather than just
Right.
actually focus on the treatment. We're going to have to send this person to prison. That's the only way this person is going to get treatment. And
Right.
again, that compounds onto more of just basically we're warehousing the problem. We're not actually treating the problem. We're just throwing people in a place where we don't have to worry, the society don't have to worry about it, and expect that it's going to happen some way or another, and then they'll come back out, but they're going to come back out, but they're not going to come near me, basically. So that's, unfortunately,
Right.
that's how society. Yeah.
Right. Like the stigma, and then if they're not being reintegrated or like accepted, like within all of society, then just going to perpetuate the mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
As well as like the economic issues. And it seems like you mentioned also just like the stereotypes. And I'm remembering what Jody Lewin had said about how, like in the media, for instance, when they released, I think the names of COVID, that it was like they only mentioned the names of the people that were on death row, and then they like list their crimes along with it. So that's just like sort of reinforcing the public perception that people in prison are bad and dangerous, right? Um, I don't know if you had heard, if you were like aware of that or noticing in the news articles about it, that it sort of plays into those stereotypes?
Yeah. I I don't want to call it laziness on the part of the media, but it's I think for I guess a person who's reporting about COVID and inside prison, they would put a picture up and Google the person, and then just like obviously their crime will pop up and just put that along with whatever news they're doing. That's not. I guess again, I don't know if that's laziness on that part. I don't know what to call it, but for I think real reporting, you would want to find out like what that person has done inside, while he's
Right.
incarcerated. All the group sites he's taken,
Right.
all the steps he's taken to be. Again, if we were all like defined by who we were 15, 20 years ago, I think everybody would have like this bad image. If we're just only focusing on the bad things that a person has done 20 years ago, I don't think anyone
Right.
would escape that like horrible, image of like, oh crap, I did something, I made a bad choice back then. And now like, that's what the media is going to be focusing about.
Right. And then it's dehumanizing. It's interesting. I wasn't aware that like people on death row don't have the right to their privacy. So like it means that anyone can just know the crime and it can be broadcast. So it's almost like certain like levels of dehumanization, right? Like that like incrementally different prisoners experience. So yeah, that was surprising to me. But I think you raised a really interesting point too about the term criminal justice, if that's even the appropriate term to be using, because like justice for whom and how is that being accomplished? So yeah, I think that's definitely something interesting to reflect on. I don't know. I'm sure. I mean, I'd be curious if you wanted to say anything else about that. Like, we don't have a time limit really, so but no pressure either way.
No. I mean, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I still believe I still believe in a criminal justice.
Yeah.
I'm not out here and I'm not saying like we need to release everybody and like we need to be in this perfect society. People
Mm-hmm.
will make bad choices. That's
Right.
unfortunately part of life, and people should be held accountable. For their actions and given the time to understand why they did that and have a chance and given a chance to rehabilitate and become a better person. So that's what I believe in as far as the criminal justice system. Unfortunately, it's not the one that we have now.
Right.
So I'm not saying so like I said, I believe a person should be held accountable if it means, you know, being secluded away from society, and like I said, given the opportunity to understand about, what they've done and the trauma they experienced. Because, what I say is like nobody, like normal people don't go to prison. Like people don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm just going to go commit a crime. And then that's going to get me 20 years. I'm going to be staying like
Right.
in prison for 20 years. People
Right.
who are in prison are people who have been impacted traumatically in their lives, in their childhood or
Yeah.
other. So
Yeah.
that had kind of this, in a way, distorted their thinking about thinking that like violence is a acceptable form of way to, resolve issues, which I thought it was. Like I thought that
Right.
violence was a way to resolve issues because that's how, I was ingrained by my parents that like if I did something wrong, they would, physically abuse me and, I would, not do it anymore. So I thought, okay, well, if that's the way that I was been brought up, then I would do that to somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's saying that again, people in prison don't or have experienced a lot of trauma in their lives
Right.
and have gone through a lot of things that most people generally, again, in society have not gone through.
Yeah.
Uh, so, again, everybody out here has some sort of trauma. Unfortunately, it's just that we don't have like out here, people don't actually have the time to actually sit down to deal with it. And unfortunately that kind of, you know, I guess puts it in, it bottles it up and then one day it just, explodes in a sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
But I think generational trauma that you mentioned is definitely a really significant issue that often gets sort of marginalized in society and not talked about enough at all. And if you come from, a family where that's happened to you, there's less resources available. So it just makes it harder to solve, right? We need outside resources somehow, but the prisons aren't providing what you need exactly. I mean, do you feel like the Prison University Project and other sort of resources you were able to find there? Because I know San Quentin is like one of the best prisons for having those sort of programs. Like, do you feel like you were able to get what you needed to an extent, or that still it was just too many institutional barriers?
No, San Quentin is, again, yeah, it is, like you said, it is one of actually the best prisons in CDCR. Yeah, it's provided, again, the prison university project, as well as other self-help groups that, I was able to take and able to kind of basically open up, along, growing up, I was never able to share my feelings or talk about it because like, I thought like nobody would understand what I was going through. And by taking groups inside San Quentin and being able to share it, I understood, other people have gone through the same issues and, faces similar traumas as me. And that's how I've been able to kind of, find, in a sense, like find my family inside, because that's kind of how I refer to people back inside is that, you don't get to choose your family, you don't get to choose your parents and your siblings, but, inside, I made some really good connections with people and these people that are still inside it is, the people I live with, I eat with, I work with, and being able to kind of just take the self-help programs and understand the trauma and how it affected, my mindset, and being able to understand that, again, anger is, will happen to everybody. Anger is a regular, emotion that happens to everybody. It's just how you deal with it. That, basically how you deal with it is, who you are, by not, reacting violently towards anger and, taking on somebody else is kind of, what one of the things I learned inside is to help understand, like, emotions are a thing that will come up for you, but, it's just how you deal with it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. You were able to find that family, right? That surrogate family in prison. And I know I was always so impressed by the students at San Quentin. So I definitely felt the positive energy in your classroom and in other classrooms. So that was definitely inspiring to me. Did you end up getting your degree from Prison University Project? Oh, it's okay. I didn't know it's MJ. No pressure.
No, I had a plan to actually get like a degree in like 6 to 7 years. I was because inside surprisingly inside San Quentin, it was, again, it's very monotonous, but I was pretty busy. I worked for the newspaper and I was a runner, so I wasn't able to do a lot of things. Plus, taking self-help programs, I wasn't able to do a lot of stuff. And I didn't think, I actually didn't plan on like coming back out to society soon because I was, granted, I was commuted by Governor Brown, and that was kind of like just a shock to me. So the plan that I had was kind of changed. Because I didn't foresee coming back out to society this soon.
Well, and hopefully that you're able to continue with that and finish getting your degree. Do you have any career goals in mind? Or?
I didn't. A lot of people ask me like what I was gonna do, what I planned on doing, like even like to the last day, like what are you gonna do out here, and like what are your life goals? And I didn't really have any because people like often have times like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is like that's what my life goal and stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, like I've been away for about 16 years now. The person that I was 16 years ago, like had a plan and all that kind of stuff. And obviously society's changed, people have changed. So I wanted to like come back out and, I mean, this is pre-COVID, like, come back out and actually see the world for what it was, for what it is. And like kind of go from there, because, life definitely changes. And like, what I thought was going to happen out here didn't happen. And, then just, I guess, working remotely and kind of like doing Zooms, and I guess that's part of life now. So
I mean, you have plenty of time to figure it out, right? And I think this is like the perfect opportunity for it. So it's always a work in progress. I mean, I remember you did stand-up comedy in prison. I was going to say that the bit you were talking about with prison being boring though. That would probably be a good bit. I mean, you probably have developed that, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I did learn. Yeah, one of the things, I guess, yeah, being in San Quentin, you kind of like, or inside, you kind of have the time to explore, uh,
Yeah,
who you are, and
right.
yeah, I learned that like I can tell jokes. Early on in life, a lot of people like made fun of me because my last name is Chiu, and I went to school in the United States. I wasn't originally born in the United States. I came here as a kid, uh, but I also went to high school when like Pokemon was a thing. So Pikachu was pretty much my last name in high school. Or the fact that like Star Wars with Chewbacca. So I've been made fun of a lot, and
Oh,
uh, no, but and that's and I was never able to kind of like take that, and I was always getting
right.
angry people for making fun of me, and
Yeah.
later, down the line, I realized that like I was able, to make people laugh, and I realized that I can
Right.
make people laugh just because from what I tell them, not because of like my last name or something, or laughing at me, because I can
Hmm.
laugh
Yeah.
from what I say, not because of something else. Um,
Right.
some of my content that I talk about are more prison friendly than society friendly, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that when you talk about Groundhog's Day, I could imagine like a remake of Groundhog's Day, a version in prison. That would be really
Yeah,
awesome. Because that would definitely dispel public stereotypes, right? Maybe we need a little bit of that. We need to normalize what it's like there rather than sensationalize it in the media all the time.
yeah. Yeah. It would be it would be a very funny last, I think, the first half, and then people will be like, okay, this is what prison like is. Then it's like, yeah, I don't want to watch this anymore. I want to go to prison.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, it's yeah,
Just an idea, right? To float
yeah.
out there. But
Uh,
yeah, was there anything else? I mean, this has been really, really awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I don't know if there's
uh,
anything else you want to say. Or I mean, I think, yeah, um,
I
yeah.
don't. I think I don't know. I think that's it. Like I
Okay,
mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can talk all day, but I know you have
Right.
a
No,
class.
no. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming and talking to us. So